The old woman stood silently near the entrance of the luxury shopping mall, clutching a worn cloth bag against her chest. Her gray hair was messy, her shoes were torn, and her faded coat looked as if it had survived decades of storms. Hundreds of people passed her without a second glance. Some looked away. Some frowned. Others whispered cruel comments under their breath. Then something happened that made everyone stop. The old woman slowly bent down to pick up a coin someone had thrown at her feet. A group of wealthy-looking women nearby burst into laughter. "Look at her," one sneered. "She's probably collecting money for dinner." Another laughed louder. "Dinner? She looks like she hasn't had a proper meal in weeks." The women continued mocking her while shoppers watched. Nobody stepped forward. Nobody defended her. Except one girl. 22-year-old Emma was leaving her shift at a small bookstore when she noticed the scene. Her stomach tightened as she heard the insults. She walked directly toward the old woman. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Emma asked gently. The old woman looked up with tired eyes. There was sadness there, but also something unusual, an intelligence and dignity that didn't match her appearance. "I'm fine, dear," she replied softly. One of the wealthy women rolled her eyes. "Why are you talking to her? She's probably homeless." Emma turned. "So what if she is?" The woman smirked. "You'll learn one day. People like her are just looking for handouts." Emma's face hardened. "And people like you think money gives them permission to humiliate others." The surrounding crowd fell silent. The wealthy woman flushed red with embarrassment and quickly walked away with her friends. Emma turned back to the old woman. "Would you like some lunch?" The old woman hesitated. "You don't need to do that." "I know. I want to." A faint smile appeared on the old woman's face. Together they walked to a nearby cafe. Emma used part of her grocery money to buy soup, bread, tea, and dessert. The old woman seemed surprised by the kindness. Most people avoided her. Some treated her like she was invisible. Others treated her worse than invisible. As they ate, Emma listened. The old woman introduced herself simply as Margaret. She never complained, never asked for money. Instead, she asked Emma questions about her life. Emma spoke honestly. Her father had died years ago. Her mother worked long hours as a nurse. Emma dreamed of becoming a writer, but financial problems had forced her to postpone university. Margaret listened carefully. "Do you ever regret being kind?" she asked suddenly. Emma laughed softly. "Sometimes kindness causes problems." "Then why continue?" "Because the world already has enough cruel people." Margaret stared at her for several seconds. Something unreadable crossed her face. Before leaving, Emma gave Margaret $20. The old woman tried refusing. Emma insisted. "Please, take it." Margaret accepted with trembling hands. "Thank you, Emma." As they parted ways, Emma assumed she would never see her again. She was wrong. 3 days later, disaster struck. The bookstore where Emma worked announced immediate closure. The owner had gone bankrupt. Employees were dismissed without warning. Emma returned home devastated. Bills were already piling up. Now she had no job. Weeks passed. Applications went unanswered. Interviews led nowhere. Savings disappeared. One evening, Emma sat alone in her small bedroom staring at unpaid bills spread across her desk. Tears filled her eyes. Her mother entered quietly. "We'll figure something out." Emma nodded, but fear consumed her. The next morning, she received an unexpected phone call. A calm female voice spoke. "Miss Emma Parker?" "Yes. You are invited to attend a private event tomorrow evening." Emma frowned. "There must be some mistake." "There is no mistake." The caller provided an address before ending the call. The location belonged to one of the most expensive estates in the city. Emma almost ignored it, but curiosity won. The following evening, she borrowed a dress from a friend and arrived at the massive mansion. Luxury cars lined the driveway. Security guards stood everywhere. Emma felt completely out of place. Inside, crystal chandeliers illuminated a ballroom filled with powerful business leaders, politicians, celebrities, and executives. She had no idea why she was there. Then she froze. Standing near the center of the room was Margaret. But she no longer looked poor. No torn shoes. No worn coat. No cloth bag. Instead, she wore an elegant black gown and priceless jewelry. Her posture radiated confidence and authority. The entire room seemed focused on her. Emma's heart nearly stopped. "What is happening?" she whispered. A nearby guest looked surprised. "You don't know who she is?" Emma shook her head. The guest laughed softly. "That's Margaret Whitmore." The name hit like lightning. Everyone knew it. Margaret Whitmore was the mother of billionaire entrepreneur, one of the richest men in the country. His family controlled companies worth billions. Emma's knees nearly buckled. Before she could process the revelation, Margaret noticed her. A warm smile spread across her face. There she is. The room turned. Hundreds of eyes focused on Emma. Margaret walked directly toward her. The crowd parted instantly. When she reached Emma, she took her hands. "I'm so glad you came." Emma stared in shock. "Margaret, what is this?" Margaret's expression became serious. "For months, I've been conducting a private experiment." The ballroom fell silent. "My son believes character matters more than appearance." People listened carefully. "So I traveled through cities dressed as an ordinary poor woman." Gasps echoed. Margaret continued. "Dozens mocked me." She glanced around the room. "Hundreds ignored me." Then she looked directly at Emma. "Only one person treated me with dignity." Emma felt everyone's attention intensify. Margaret smiled. "Her name is Emma." The room erupted into whispers. Several faces turned pale. Among the guests stood some of the same women who had mocked Margaret outside the mall. Their expressions shifted from confidence to terror. Margaret raised a hand. The room became quiet again. "I invited many people here tonight." Her voice hardened. "Some are here because they showed compassion." Then her gaze moved toward the women. "Others are here because they revealed their true character." The women looked horrified. Margaret's son Richard stepped forward. Tall, confident, and powerful, he commanded immediate attention. He addressed the crowd. "My mother has always taught me that success means nothing without humanity." Silence filled the ballroom. Richard then turned toward Emma. "My mother has spoken about you constantly." Emma blushed. "I didn't do anything special." Margaret squeezed her hand. "That's exactly why you are special." One of the wealthy women suddenly approached. Her voice trembled. "Mrs. Whitmore, I would like to apologize." Margaret looked at her calmly. "For what?" The woman swallowed. "For my behavior." Margaret nodded. "I accept your apology." The woman sighed with relief. Then Margaret added, "But apologies don't erase character." The woman's face collapsed. Several business executives exchanged uncomfortable glances. Margaret knew exactly who had mocked her. And now they knew she knew. The evening continued. Yet Emma remained confused. Why had she been invited? Why was everyone treating her like a guest of honor? Finally, Richard approached. "I understand you're looking for work." Emma nodded. "I've been struggling." Richard smiled. "I may have a solution." He handed her a folder. Inside was an employment offer. Emma's eyes widened. The salary alone was life-changing. Benefits, education funding, mentorship programs, it seemed unbelievable. "I can't accept this." Richard raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" "I haven't earned it." Margaret laughed softly. "Kindness is earned every day." Emma looked stunned. Richard continued. "This isn't charity." He pointed toward the document. "We investigated your background." Emma's heart skipped. "You did. You are hardworking, honest, intelligent, and respected by former employers." He smiled. "We're offering opportunity, not charity." Tears filled Emma's eyes. For the first time in months, hope returned. She accepted. But the biggest shock was still waiting. A month later, Emma began working at one of the Whitmore companies. She excelled. Her dedication impressed everyone. Promotions followed quickly. Mentorship programs helped her develop skills she never knew she possessed. Meanwhile, the women who had mocked Margaret faced consequences. Word spread throughout elite social circles. Business relationships weakened. Invitations disappeared. Reputations suffered. Not because Margaret sought revenge. Because people had witnessed who they truly were. Character had exposed itself. 1 year later, Emma stood on a stage receiving an award for innovation and leadership. The audience applauded. Margaret sat proudly in the front row. After the ceremony, Emma approached her. "You changed my life." Margaret smiled. "No." Emma looked confused. Margaret continued. "You changed your own life the moment you chose kindness when nobody was watching." Emma fell silent. She remembered that afternoon outside the mall. The insults, the laughter, the humiliation. Nobody knew the old woman was connected to billions of dollars. Nobody expected rewards. Nobody thought their actions mattered. Yet one simple decision had altered everything. Margaret took Emma's hand. "Most people are kind when cameras are recording." She paused. "True character appears when there is nothing to gain." Emma smiled through tears. Around them stood powerful people, successful executives, and influential leaders. Yet the most valuable lesson had nothing to do with money. A poor-looking old woman had walked through the city and unknowingly tested hundreds of hearts. Most failed. One succeeded. And that single act of compassion created a future neither of them could have imagined. Because fortunes can be inherited, businesses can be built, and wealth can be lost overnight. But the rarest treasure in the world is a heart that chooses kindness when everyone else chooses cruelty. And on the day an entire crowd mocked a helpless old woman, only one girl possessed that treasure.